Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's event. Delighted to have Atkins with us today discussing the digital space. The digital space is a growing part of the construction sector, and we have many of our employers who are looking for military personnel with a digital background, all from various levels. So I am delighted and excited to hear from Atkins today on how they play in this space. So sit back and enjoy. I'm going to hand over to the Billforce CEO. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Caroline. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our virtual career chat. I hope you are all well and looking after yourselves and one another. Now, as our autumnal wardrobe is here for the next few months, I hope you all have your Halloween outfits ready and fireworks purchased. Or, if you'd rather, we can escape all of this for the next 90 minutes and go on and have an incredible journey with all things planning, design, engineering and project management with a seasoning of digital transformation. So global and market leaders Atkins are with us this morning, one of the largest and most fascinating consultants in the world. Now, part of the NSC Leveling Group, they are leading edge on data and technological innovation. And as this is what our future is going to look like, we thought it would be interesting to have them along today. We have 5 speakers from various parts of their business. Firstly, we'll hear about the partnership with the Armed Forces Programme from Laura Hobbs. Then we'll hear from Darren Jury, 28-year career with the Royal Navy and now a senior PM. Nikki Calderoni, who will discuss digital PMO and leadership. And we'll hear from David Hirons, 14-year career with RAF, and he'll share his career in the digital advantage space. We'll hear from recruitment partner Patricia Napoli, and so we will hear from our speakers with a Q&A at the end. So please feel free to type in any questions as we go. And I'm delighted to pass to Laura to kick us off, and we'll switch our cameras off, Laura.
Thank you very much, Angela. So, hi everyone. I'm Laura, so I'm the Programme Manager for partnering with the Armed Forces, which is an internal initiative that we run here at Atkins. So I joined Atkins on the Graduate Development Programme just over a month ago, so I'm quite fresh to the business as well. But I'm really excited to have taken on this role and work with BuildForce. So partnering with the Armed Forces is all about looking after and providing a network of support for our veterans, for our reservists and our cadet force adult volunteers, of which we have over 200 across the business in the UK. So we believe by supporting them, and we are also a Gold Award company in the MOD's Employer Recognition Scheme, that we're providing clear benefits to our veterans in all of our internal activities. However, we also want to give back to our veterans outside of Atkins across the wider industry to make sure that we can share our experience, our knowledge, as well as encouraging others to be successful in business. So as such, we work alongside BuildForce to support those individuals looking to transition from the armed forces into the world of business and really see and appreciate the value of both direct and transferable skills that people like yourselves can offer. So thank you all so much for coming today. I really hope you find this session useful, and I'll now pass over to Darren, who's going to bring all of what I've said to life a little bit more.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can see the screen, and I'll ask Laura to sort of turn this off towards the end so you can see more of me. I'm a senior project manager with Faithful and Gould, F&G as we term it, and working closely with our Atkins partners on many projects. So what I'm going to talk about today is my transition and my experiences of working with BuildForce and F&G and Atkins. I'll just give you an insight into that before we head into the real nitty-gritty that everybody's dialing in for, which is the presentations by Nikki and David. So my story starts October 2018, so just over 3 years ago, where I met Caroline at a BuildForce event, and that was my TX on my introduction to BuildForce and leaving the Navy, and joining F&G a few months later in February 2019. And as I said, I'll just talk a little bit about my journey, a few things I picked up during that, and we'll sort of canter through a few of these slides. So Laura, if you could go to the next slide, please. So here's the obligatory old photograph and the military part. For me, 28 and a half years, going from a young artificer apprentice through as a technician through to leaving as a warrant officer one. And in that, I've sort of managed to accrue a lot of experience, as many people on this call will. I was a marine engineer, a technician, and I ended up with those last couple of years working. And a few things that I always take from that part of my life is not only the amazing places we went and the things we did, all the things most veterans talk about, the camaraderie, but things like collaboration. And I've reflected on how actually collaboration is something, and being part of a team, that I took for granted during that time. And I now look back and think, well, yeah, actually, I was able to develop the skills of being a team member, also supporting the team leader, and then occasionally being the team leader. So I've focused my thoughts on this presentation really of just a few key items, and obviously everybody talks about communication, but it's something in my world as a consultant project manager that is key, and it is something that the military gave me, that ability to talk to all different ranks, all different personnel, including our civilian counterparts, and be able to get your message over, or be able to work with them, as I said, collaboratively. So I then went into the transition. Next slide, please, Laura. And as I mentioned, met with Bill Force, and the key to my transition was having had a great career in the Navy, I was looking for something different, but I didn't know what that was. And I stumbled, and I use the word stumbled correctly because I wasn't planned to be at the event, but I was. I spoke to Caroline, was very intrigued by being able to be an engineer who could move from one sector and dealing with steel ships to dealing with the built environment. And a big part of that was Build Force enabling me to talk to veterans. And I met them on site, met them in design offices through the connections that Build Force gave me. And also then I had a 2-week work placement with the Tideway project, building the super sewer in the centre of London, for those that aren't aware. And that really was the crux for me, because it gave me that try before you buy. Is this a place I want to go and work? Are these people I want to go and be a part of their team? And it gave me the confidence that actually I could swap my military career and experiences into the built environment and be successful. And I think there was a very key moment, apart from just giving me connections and the subsequent job interviews that came out of it. It sort of lit a touch paper that I knew I'd picked the right place. Next slide, please, Laura. So a few thoughts that I collected during that transition was, I mentioned that I didn't know where I was going, and I've always said, consider all your options, but explore everything. At the time, I was exploring finance, and I realised that finance wasn't going to be for me. Although as an engineer I could do maths, it was never something I was really keen on. So at that point, the other thing I always say is decide on what you don't want to do, and narrow that funnel down until you get to a place, a company, a position, or in fact what we're talking about today, a part of the built environment or part of the sector that you are really interested in and you're really keen to explore, and then go for it. So the other couple of things that I've noted down here are who is the right company for you, because it's a transactional two-way thing. I'll talk about it later, but I discovered that F&G and Atkins fitted with what I wanted from my next career path and my next place to work and team to be part of. And I would say, it's something for you to consider on your journeys as well. And I've changed the next line. It used to say transferable skills, but in my opinion, a lot of people mention skills, and it's very important. We've all got skills, and we all have those that they very readily map across to a new career. But one of the things that I've learned in the last few years is actually it's the experiences that are just as important, and actually it's perhaps the thing you bring to somebody else's team that they didn't realize they were getting. And like I said, in my military career, I reflect back on the collaborations, the hard work you had to do to build a team in a short period of time to achieve something is hard fought and hard won. But it's all about those hidden skills, if you use the word skills, and I believe it gives us a great experience of being able to reflect on those in our new careers and in our new jobs, and actually bring that to the fore. And I mentioned before about the Build Force work placements. If you've got time, if you've got the ability within your schedules to be able to go and work with somebody for a few days or weeks, if you can, then I'd always highly recommend it. And the last line, I actually look back and enjoyed the transition journey because it was something that I got my teeth into. I found out a few things about myself on the way, and have ended up, I believe, in the right place. Next slide. So very quickly, why Build Force worked for me. I've mentioned quite a few of them. The key for me was it was genuine advice from somebody, whether it's a veteran or from Caroline or Angela and the team, or within, as we heard from PWAF and the Atkins network. You're going to get advice from people that have either been through the transition, have experience of where you're going, but they're not necessarily selling you something. So slightly different than some of the advice you'll get elsewhere, and it really was important for me. That goes hand, industry experience, as it says there. And the other one is introductions. When I first connected with Build Force, I think the tagline was working with 91 companies. I believe the latest figure is over 151. So clearly, it's an important network that gives you very much opportunities to talk, discuss, explore your next career. And what I've also found out in the last few years is that Build Force and the veterans community might be there for your transition, but most likely is there for your next job, your next career, and if you ever need it again. Next slide. So this one is just a little bit about why Faithful and Gordon Atkins works for me, and it's something hopefully people can relate to. For me, I was looking for a new challenge. I clearly had set my goal as I didn't want to work in the same arena as I'd worked in. For me, that was predominantly in Portsmouth Dockyard, repairing and fixing ships at various points in my career. And I just wanted to go and do something new. So F&G and Atkins, I've got a diversity of projects, a diversity of clients that they work with, and that really suited me. So the opportunities were very clear for me. and that's something I always recommend people look at when they're looking at a new employer. The culture was something I didn't realise at the time. I thought it sounded right. It sounded good when I took the job opportunity. What I found is I found a very similar culture that I had before, in that very team orientated, very much about collaborating with individuals, collaborating as groups, collaborating in small teams or large teams. And actually that really gelled with me and how I operated in the Navy and how I wanted to operate afterwards. And since I joined, I have been flexible working way before it became a cool phrase for companies. F&G and Atkins have always worked that way in our consultancies, and we work in client offices when it's appropriate, and that's where I am today. Sat on a site office with my client, working with them, or from home or from various offices. And at one stage, pre-pandemic, I was saying I was working from 2 different homes and 4 different offices. So very flexible with that. And the last thing on this slide really was F&G gave me the opportunity to do the training I needed to transition from the Navy into the built environment, into construction. And that was important because I didn't have a back history that says I know how to build buildings, I know how to construct or do any engineering or, as we're talking about now, digital services in the way that everybody understood. And that little bit of training actually just cemented the skills and experiences that I brought across. Next slide, please. Which leads on nicely, hopefully, to where I've ended up, which is enjoying being a project manager with F&G, working with some very interesting clients on some very intriguing projects. But the other part of it is the company gave me the ability to be an ambassador, to be a mentor, and work with PWAF, work with Build Force predominantly, and support events like this wherever I can. And so now I really enjoy that part of my job because it is allocated as part of my work to just give back, help where I can. If I can give some advice on where I think people moving from one area to another can gain some insight from my experience, then quite willing to do so. So I always say, as whenever I'm at the Pictures Speak, that was a CTB event recently, I always say that please reach out to me through LinkedIn or through Buildforce. Quite happy to engage as often as I can to help people. That's my story, a little bit about how Buildforce helped me, where hopefully PWAF and Atkins fit in, and quite happily be around at the end for any questions and chat to people.
Darren, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. You looked as if you were having a ball at that CTP event with Caroline, so thank you.
Always.
Always. Could I ask Nikki if she's able to join us? Thank you, Darren.
Good morning. My name's Nikki Calderoni. I am a practice manager within ADS&T, which is within Atkins. So I'm not ex-military, although I am the daughter of an old soldier, and so I was brought up on military camps and grew up in Germany, and also went on to marry someone in the Air Force, so I feel very close affiliation to the armed forces. I've also done a lot of recruitment in my time with Atkins, and interviewed many servicemen and women, people who are transitioning, and spoken to lots of people at a lot of those kinds of events. So seen sort of firsthand how that transition can be really successful. and gone on to sort of line manage and support people in their careers into Atkins, and who have gone on to develop incredibly well as part of that. So in terms of, excuse me, a little bit about me, I won't go through it in too much detail, but I've been with Atkins for 20 years, and upon joining, I didn't expect to be with Atkins for 20 years. It's kind of happened, and on reflection, I think it's because of the interesting work that we do, the clients that we work with. So we work with security, intelligence and government, aerospace, defence and critical national infrastructure clients. So having that strong interest in those areas has meant sort of being able to work on really interesting, exciting projects. Also, doing a lot of recruitment in that time, growing the business, also having that commitment to things such as ED&I, running women's professional development networks, and also as a mental health first aider. And I think that sort of reflects back to some of the stuff that Darren was saying about the culture, the culture with Atkins, and kind of why I've stayed for 20 years and still enjoying it incredibly. So in terms of my current role as a practice manager, if I just go on to this one. So this is ADS&T, and they're the practices, and you'll see that the blue box highlighted is the area that I'm practice manager for, and it's Pmo services and solutions, and we sit within the broader business and engage very much with all of the other practices. Dave Hirons, who'll be talking to you a little bit later, included in that. So Pmo, what do we do? What's it all about? So we work with our customers to help them reimagine their PMO business model, their process, their culture, to support better decision making and insight. So exploiting new technologies and adopting new and innovative ways of working to help support the delivery, whilst improving our clients' PMO skills and capabilities to manage effective and controlled change. So in terms of digital, I'm not a techie. I'm not technical in that sense. I'm a PMO specialist. It's what I've done for 20 years as a consultant. But the world has changed. The world is changing, and needing those digital skills linked into PMO is more and more important. Just to take a sort of step back in terms of, if people haven't heard of what a PMO is. So a PMO consists at a portfolio, program or project level. And ultimately what it does is helps an organisation meet its strategic objectives by enabling them to have control around their project program management, and having those processes in place, having efficiencies across the board, but also having information to make key decisions on, and real-time reporting. So effective PMOs enable the success of the business. They understand the business environment. They understand the value chain and how the PMO will help the business, including the business in the design and development of the governance, and ensuring that there's business ownership. So how does this fit in with the sort of the digital side of things? So within a PMO, having all of the data, the information, things that projects and programs are planning, what their risks are, where their finances are, is all good and well, but the seniors need to be able to make decisions. So having that data that is trusted, easily accessible, is key. But also taking out inefficiencies and automating where things are possible so that people can really focus on the value-added activities. So why are we moving towards digital PMO? So there's a number of project delivery trends at the moment and in the past. So Agile Delivery, so PMOs need to be designed to support different ways of managing projects in a more iterative way. They need to be set up using benchmarking, making sure that cost is low and removing cost and time from schedule, so automating wherever possible. PMOs need to provide advanced analysis using integrated architectures, business intelligence, analytics, and data science techniques. So the purest of data science doesn't necessarily sit within the PMO capability area, but that integration across the practices is key to ensure that digital PMOs can be delivered and supported with our customers. Customers want data-driven decisions. They want to see the information to help them make the right decisions so that people can collaborate, so that and ensuring that there's security around that data, again, is a key element. I must apologise, there's builders on the floor above, so if you can hear any back drilling and banging, I do apologise. Enterprise integration. So enterprise PMOs mean that PMO technology selections will be aligned to the business strategy, so and the project delivery frameworks. So the sort of digital revolution is happening. It's very fast paced, and it's really important that we do stay connected. Increasing our sort of digital capability within a PMO perspective is really important. It's a core skill set that we're looking to grow and develop, and really looking to have that integration, automation, and data literacy. So that's a brief sort of summary about what a PMO is, why we're moving towards a digital PMO, and what it means for our customers. So a bit of an overview there. In terms of what our customer gets, they get smarter delivery, they have more grip and control on their finances because they've got trusted data, and knowledge transfer as well within a PMO is really important. It's the place that program and project managers go to understand what the best methodology for delivery is, what the processes are, how to get information for training and coaching around program and project methodologies. So having that in a digital format is really important, really efficient, and does help enable that smarter delivery. And as I've mentioned previously, better and faster decision making. So, 20 years ago when I started in the PMO, I remember putting together dashboards for program managers, and it was a case of going into multiple spreadsheets and multiple databases and copying and pasting information into a spreadsheet that then got emailed days and days and days later, by which time the world had changed. The delivery position had changed, so the data wasn't trusted by the seniors. So automation and digital PMOs enable trusted and faster decision making for seniors, and aids that delivery. So within the PMO, we have a whole range of capability areas, and they all kind of plug into the digital PMO. So the PMO design is key, designing a PMO that will enable digital transformation and having a digital PMO. PMO leadership, a very important element, which I will talk a little bit more about later. Improvements to the PMO, constantly scanning the horizon, what new technology is out there, how can we be more efficient, how can we be more effective. PMO controls, so planning, risk management, change control, all of those core things, those core processes are incredibly important, because if we don't get the information being input into systems correct, the data and dashboards and information won't be trusted. So we need to make sure we get that foundation absolutely right. And then there's delivery insight. So all good and well having a lovely or singing dashboard that is real-time data, but what does it mean? And that's something that our consultants provide assistance with to program and project managers, acting as that critical friend, doing the so what bit. So here's a dashboard that tells you this information. What does that mean for you? What do you need to do about it? What are the implications of that information? And all of those key capabilities feed and factor into the digital PMO. In terms of trends, we're seeing much more of our customers asking for this. They want the digital PMO, they want that trusted information and data, and working closely with Dave's practice as well, where that depth of digital capability sits. So real collaborative solutions as we move forward. But digital PMO isn't just about processes and technology. It's about people as well. So looking around the sort of key attributes for leadership, so having recruited and worked with many ex-military people, I know that the leadership element is a core skill developed over careers. So I just sort of wanted to put together a bit of a summary of the types of leadership attributes that really work effectively within a PMO. So probably telling you stuff that you already know, but just as a summary, is having empathetic leaders, people acknowledge other people's feelings in situations. Sometimes as a consultant going into a client area, they need some convincing of why we're changing the ways that they might be working, and understanding how they're feeling about that, rather than just sort of going and making changes and not winning any friends in that perspective, but also leading the teams that might be having challenges in that area. So being able to see the world as others sees it, not being judgmental, and understanding the other person's feelings around things, and communicating that they are understood. But also alongside that, being delivery focused, in a PMO, being the guardian of the information, ensuring that projects are being delivered, and having that project management delivery focus as part of that leadership. And then an excellent communicator. PMO leadership has to influence so many different people, the team that you're leading, back to the Atkins organisation, but also customers, making sure that all of the people impacted by a new PMO or an adapted PMO are kept informed. So having an empathetic, empowering and authentic style of leadership, which complements that technical skill set, is a real key to success from a PMO leadership perspective. Okay. So in terms of sort of career stories, as I sort of wanted to reflect back to some of the stuff that Darren had said, and I think from what I've learned as someone that's recruited a lot of people who've transitioned from the military, is don't underestimate the transferable skills that you have. I've spoken to people who hadn't realised that they've been running projects all their lives. In their careers in the military, it's basically what they've been doing, possibly using different terminology and those kinds of things. So don't underestimate that side of things. And looking at job descriptions, don't be put off by some of the terminology, because it is that transferable element, I think, that really makes people transition from the military have successful careers with Atkins. So I think, that would be some of my top tips, is just don't underestimate those skills, and selling those attributes that you have. So I think that was everything that I had. Thank you.
Nikki, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. We didn't hear the knocking of the building either, so you did well. Okay, if you could ask your colleague David if he could join us. I do miss that noise though, Nikki, so I might ask you to put the volume up later.
Okay.
Hi, David.
Hi, Angela. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is David Hirons. I'm practice manager, as Nikki said, for Digital Advantage, and my team specialise in problem solving in the technical space, basically. I'll take you through a little bit of that in a minute, but my experience all started off when I joined the RAF as an air traffic controller. I basically ended up canoeing for about 14 years of my career, rather than actually doing much of air traffic control, but it allowed me to use those experiences or build those experiences that were definitely transferable. And one of those was, building a team. And I know Nikki suggested, or mentioned many times, so did Darren, about the attributes of somebody that crosses over from service life into civilian life. Those transferable skills are absolutely essential. So I know I can bleat on about that all day as well, but it really helped me from learning how to be to playing hard, working hard. And then when I transferred, it was a case of I want to try and do something different. And I thought I was going to do something different, but actually ended up falling back into what I do best, and that was, building teams, working with teams, and encouraging those people to grow around me. Now, my team, Digital Advantage, I will just share my slides. It was created a few years ago as part of some growth theme within Atkins, and I joined the team to help grow that team from Atkins. I've been with Atkins now for nearly 8 years, so not quite as long as Nikki, but transferred from into Serco, so that's serious, and then serious organised crime agency, learning the ropes along the way, but always attracted to those organisations that had a strong military footprint, a strong military background, and also the people that I work with were of like-minded attitude and behaviours, which really gave me some confidence. My interest in technology came from problem solving, not from technology itself. And I was never a computer geek, but I enjoyed the technology aspect of actually how it created more problems than good sometimes. And I really enjoyed kind of trying to unpick those issues out and working with people to try and understand how could we actually use the tools, very similar to the military. How can we use those tools to improve our lives, our working lives, and the people around us? How can we improve? How can we continually improve? And there's a very, very much a performance thing of, as I said, work hard, play hard in the military. So where's that got me now? So it's helped me to build a team. So my team's about 160 strong, and I have many ex-forces, leavers, and people that are transitioning right now into civilian life. And if I go on to my next slide, where do you kind of identify where you'd fit? How do you identify your transition, and where you kind of envisage or see yourself in the future? That's really hard, and I found that hard to kind of project myself into a career in civilian life. And I think so. I put this slide up because these are the things that worry us at the moment, and we've been in the industry and digital. You start looking at these things, you think, how could I relate to those things, in terms of resource scarcity and the complex systems, more interdependencies. Everything's going at 5,000 miles an hour, and nothing's slowing down. It's a sustainability aspect. The threats in geopolitics and the digital native customers. What that means is that we're comfortable with using digital. Well, I think we can all relate to that. We use mobile phones, we use computing, we kind of have those experiences. We do that within jobs, whether it's military or not. Geopolitical threats, well, there's nobody going to be better knowing about new threats and kind of cyber warfare and the problems we have across with the geopolitics situation. We've seen that play out in our working lives every day of the week. Carbon footprint and CO2 really are compelling, and we've all got a view and a vision on that. Just speed of change. Now, the military's changed significantly. You probably don't relate to that whilst you're actually operating within the military, but certainly on reflection for those that have been in the military for maybe longer than 10 years, look back and see how much change has happened. It's absolutely incredible. So you've experienced that, and that's really, really important because you know how it's impacted you, how it's prioritized, and how it's taken up, and what that change effect was on you going through your military careers. The complexity. Again, working in cross teams, cross collaboration, the complexity of operations and exercises, the logistics of delivery, it's really complex. And there's no better experience than coming from the military and being able to see that. And also resource scarcity, as I'm sure you're all well aware. we need to do more with less, and that's been a military kind of like principle for so long now, driven obviously down by government. But that causes us big problems in terms of how are we going to do more for less, and how can we leverage technology to help our clients, and many of those are, back into the MOD as well. So how does that translate into what we provide in terms of services? So on the left-hand side, that's the same challenges that we face, the same disruptors. I'm just going to go in reverse order and see if I can trigger kind of any interest or understanding or crossover skills. So for start, there's the digital design and build service. So we're trying to do faster with less cost and creativity. And again, that creativity of problem solving, of how can we do that? What is the shortest route from A to B? There's nothing more fundamental that the military teaches you than that. And the analytics side of things, quite a lot of trades within the military have an analytical underpinning and skill set. So those are really key things that we look out for when we're actually interviewing or encouraging, through interview and people that are transferring into the Digital Advantage team. Through integrating technology solution services, now we've all had it done to us, and many of you have probably been involved with projects or involvement of actually transition to using technology in your normal working lives within the military, and your experience of that quite often is bad or not good or could be better, and those experiences really help us. If you've experienced that and you carried out through, been through that exercise, you can identify when could happen when we're helping to implement technology solutions with our clients. And if you already know how the client's going to feel, the people, the consumers are going to feel, that's a really good attribute and a really good skill. It's that experience that Darren was suggesting earlier. With our data-driven performance services, so again, we're looking at how to improve quicker decision making, and again, it's something that's instilled in it's part of the ethos and the kind of operation of military, and to make quicker decisions. Again, there's nobody better, I feel, that have experienced either from any of the military services or the critical services like fire and doctors, nurses, NHS, in terms of life and death. So it helps something we have to deal with all the time is about prioritization and urgency and impact, and using technology to do that. And how can we enhance that? And how can we improve our decision making? And again, if you've got experiences, those are completely transferable and can be built into using that, that knowledge and that experience to actually build better systems and more effective systems, and getting rid of the lag or the disinformation. And lastly, it's about trust. We see our digital transformation partner service as a kind of the pinnacle of what we offer. We actually embed into teams, and going back to my RF days and the canoeing days of old, that team ethos and that working together to succeed really did and really does play out in the way that I lead my team, the way I operate day to day. And I think that that's the biggest attribute that we hold dear to our hearts. So what does my team look like? Okay, so I have technology leadership, people with many years of experience, not just in technology, but actually operating in business areas and operations, MOD, security intelligence, and working, as Nikki suggested, across critical national infrastructure. I have those business enterprise architects that look at how a business operates. We recently did a massive project about in the battle space with one of my ex-military colleagues who's working in that space. trying to understand all the dependencies of all the projects and programs operating right across defence. His experience played out fantastically well because he could converse and talk to all the stakeholders without a heartbeat, okay, without challenge. Our data architecture and governance team, we have ex-military people in there as well, and people have come from signal regiment and areas like that that understand kind of the importance of data and the data transfer and the signaling and messaging and transference of that. We also have platform and technology solutions where, although the technology transfer skills, some can be quite transferable. What we tend to do is look for people that can actually work out problem solving and help to understand the bigger things than just the technology themselves, the people, the processes, the technology, the information, the facilities, what the outcome is going to look like. And that team within platform technology solutions help others, including suppliers, including client teams, to help pull together and integrate properly, integrate those solutions. We also have a digital infrastructure team, which I'll go through in a second. But Paul, that heads up that team, is a current serving reservist, and he's a very good point of contact for actually bringing people in from services because of the types of operations and the types of work that they do. They still do secure installations for the military. Some sandy areas, they work on military bases and camps still, and really help. It's almost a give back from what Atkins can do from a building and engineering company, a project management company, into providing digital input back in and providing that kind of a first port step in terms of technical delivery. We also have a business analysis team that supports our all the teams there, and they're great. They watch and understand how a business operates. They understand how things, customers can consume or use or manage their tools and their systems and the people, etc. And that's great if you've got an experience of within the military or security and intelligence, because that's where we quite operate, and quite often things are subtle and not often picked up by those that have got a civilian background. So having that insight and understanding of what the outcomes are and objectives are for the teams and the clients we support, it's really key. And again, we have quite a lot of military individuals. James Pepper is on this course listening in today. He's actually a member of that team, and he was also serving reservists. We also have a service architecture and integration team, and that's headed up by an ex-logistics major. Again, his transferable skills coming into that and heading up that team. And he certainly runs it, with that people ethos and people aspect and the collaboration around making sure that what we deliver can be consumed by the user. It can be supported, it can be understood, and it can be managed, and it doesn't cause problems when we actually do implement our technology. I think looking and reflecting on all the things that we've delivered over the years, 98% of all of our problems are people problems, and 2% of the technology problems is literally like that. And most technology problems have been solved. So we just got to work out how we can use our skill set to kind of bolt things together and improve the working lives of individuals. So the digital is very, very broad and not so in depth as you may perceive. Just going to quickly run through the teams now. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but what I'm going to do is show you some things you might identify as things that you may do. So our business analysis team do strategic alignment, and if there's anything the military teaches you, is about strategy, stakeholder analysis, being able to manage and understand the value of people and value of teams and what they can provide you and support you with, and the knowledge share. Business process and modeling, all those underpinning things that, as Nikki suggested earlier as well, that you might not recognize the business process modeling, but it's actually, that's an industry term. But if you reflect it back to your past or your current careers and your past careers and experiences, business process is, how do you get things done, and agreeing how you're going to get things done so they work routinely. And again, that's something that I learned from the military, and especially as an air traffic controller. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you'll start seeing some of the key attributes and the key activities that it could be cross-transferable. Technology leadership, it's more aligned to those with a long-standing career and working at strategic levels. Okay, so it might not be, might not be to everybody's taste, but it's certainly things about business development. What we're trying to do, and most of my technology leaders are ex-military, working back into MOD or SIG, security intelligence and government areas. Why? Because they get it and they understand it. They understand the challenges and they understand how to work through those challenges. And our enterprise and system architecture is very, very similar in terms of understanding about governance and compliance and assurance, and making sure that the things we're looking at, we understand, and that big problem-solving, big picture. And the only way you can understand the problems is actually, it's the softer skills that are really important, about understanding and empathy with the client and being able to work collaboratively with them to extract what their pains are, and build that understanding and be able to portray it and picture it back so it can be explained to others. So you can provide that leadership in terms of delivery of projects. And this is probably where we, myself and Nikki, work closest together in terms of providing that big picture view, along with programmatic and project management, to deliver outcomes. Data architecture and governance, again, it looks quite abstract, but there's lots of things in there about data security and cyber security, and how we help to make decision making and provide insight to that. So this is wholly important. And again, we have ex-military people working in there simply because they come back through you can use their past experiences about how we evolve our clients' decision-making tools. Transferable skills in here. The engineering skills are key. So there's lots of crossover about that, how we build systems. Cybersecurity architecture. So cybersecurity, that touches everybody's lives at the moment, and we're really interested in those crossover transferable skills and people with any knowledge in terms of security and technology. Paul Hutchinson, as I said, he manages the military aspect. He's part of. He's been involved with PWAF in the past. Still is, and involved with actually bringing in most of my ex-military or those that are transferring into the team, and helps to provide a mentor, guidance, and helps to make sure that the transition's not difficult, and provide a point of contact all the way through, from interview through to onboarding and pre-interview as well. We do quite a lot of just reaching out or being able to reach back into the team to give those experiences, what I think experiences, and a one-to-one option or discussion. And quite a lot of stuff that Paul Hutchins has done is completely transferable from military aspect to military delivery. You might recognize some of those things about radar systems. We need people with that experience, and we don't necessarily find those skill sets anywhere else but those coming out of the military. Communication spaces, again, the challenges of communication spaces. and the transition from pretty standard technology, but pushing the boundaries into and the transferable to Wi-Fi, 5G, and radio communications, and trying to work across that can be really, really complex. And those with military training have an understanding of that and know how to deal with that and know how to speak and deal with the customers and clients that are actually are operating in that space. Lastly, the service architecture team, as I said, is managed by Chris Loudon. He's ex-military, and he's got a team of 14, and I think 8 or 9 of them are ex-military. Why did they get attracted into the service space? Because they know what it's like to not have, maybe not have customer service, or provide customer service, or provide excellence, and understanding what the difference is about having poor relationships or having a great relationship in actually getting the job done and working as a team is really impactful. So we find that people attract into this space, and they've had lots and lots of transferable skills. It might not look like it on the face of it from those points, but it's actually about how you help people transition and help individuals transition, the customers, consumers transition, and orchestrate complex suppliers and complex teams that struggle to work together. And we provide the leadership in that space to bring them all together and actually drive forwards. So that's some insight in my team. Hopefully it's been of interest. We, through the network, obviously through Laura and Angela and Caroline, we're happy to help support anybody with questions now or post the event. You can come and we'll try and make connection. And if you want to understand more about any of the individual teams and what their experiences are, and those that have transferred from the military into the civilian life and Atkins, then we'd be willing to do that. And I'll pass over to Angela again.
David, that was incredible. Thank you very much for that. A lot of content there and a lot of questions. So looking forward to the Q&A. If I could ask your colleague, Patricia. Did I get that right? There's a smile there, so I must have. Thank you for that.
Yes, that was close enough. No problem. No problem. So thank you all for joining today. I'm so pleased to be supporting this particular event. I have been with Atkins since 2007. And whilst I personally am not from the ex-forces, I have, family members, cousins, uncles, very close friends that have transitioned from the ex-forces. So I do completely understand some of the challenges and concerns that you may all have, and hopefully we can talk through some of those and perhaps address them during the Q&A. So during my time with Atkins, I've primarily supported the aerospace, defence, security and technology divisions and their various iterations through the years. So I've always worked closely with supporting on the recruitment side with regards to attracting and bringing in individuals from the ex-forces. So today I'm here primarily, and I was asked to attend primarily to answer any of the questions that you may have with regards to the Atkins and F&G recruitment processes, where we sort of advertise our roles, how we look for particular candidates. So more than happy to do that. But obviously, I'm conscious that you've heard from Darren from an F&G perspective, from Nikki and Dave from an aerospace, defence and security perspective. But I did also just want to highlight the huge level of growth that has taken place across Atkins in 2021, and we're expecting to continue, obviously over the coming years. So as well as F&G and ADS&T, we also have an infrastructure division, a transportation division and a nuclear and power division, all of whom actively recruit and source candidates from the ex-forces. So all of our vacancies for Atkins and F&G are advertised on our career site. There's generally in the region of about 700 vacancies advertised at any given time. So I do think it's important, as Darren was saying, to consider what it is that you want to do, but also what you don't want to do, because that will also help you with regards to sort of targeting your applications in obviously the right areas. Again, given that we've got 700 vacancies, given that you may not be 100% sure what kind of role that you're wanting, it may be useful for you to actually register on our talent community. So the link to the talent community registration is on the Atkins career site again. I would encourage you to include as much information as possible when you register. Not everything is mandatory, but the more that you include in that registration, the more opportunities the recruiters can potentially consider you for, because they effectively use that talent community to pipeline candidates even for future applications. And just to pick up on that, the one point that whenever I've attended these events, the one question that always comes up is, at which point prior to me leaving the forces should I look to apply for a position? From an ADS&T perspective, and I suspect from other divisions perspective, I would absolutely encourage you to apply as soon as possible. We've got people through our candidate pipeline that are effectively only looking to leave the forces in, say, 6 months' time. Absolutely don't leave it to a couple of months before you are due to actually leave the forces themselves. For the Aerospace, Defence, Security and Technology Division, we do also have a candidate landing page, and I'm happy to put all of these links in the chat for everybody later. And essentially, the ADS&T landing page provides you with a wealth of information about ADS&T as a business, about our current employees, some of which their career stories are for individuals that have transitioned from the forces, and also groups together all of the aerospace, defence, security and technology vacancies for you to apply to. And obviously that includes vacancies for Nikki's area and Dave's area and all of the other areas of ADS&T. We also, across Atkins, run numerous virtual careers fairs similar to this event, and I would absolutely encourage you to keep an eye on the Atkins LinkedIn page. Follow the page on LinkedIn. All the virtual careers fairs tend to be advertised on there, and it will then give you an opportunity to get a flavour for the different divisions, but also to have one-on-one conversations with hiring managers. And inevitably, there will always be hiring managers there, especially for ADS&T, and I'm quite sure also for F&G, that they themselves have transitioned across from the forces. So our application process is relatively straightforward. It's essentially, you look for the vacancy that you want to apply to, submit your CV. Your CV is obviously then considered by the recruiters and hiring managers, and the process moves on from there. So I think, as Darren was saying, please make sure that in your CV you also highlight your relevant experiences. Not necessarily just the transferable qualifications, but definitely the experiences that you've had and how those tie into the role that you're applying to. Very much as Nikki was saying, often people don't realise that they've essentially been project managers for years and years, and it's just about looking at that through a different lens. So absolutely research the companies that you're applying to. Once you know who your interview panel is, have a look for them on LinkedIn. The majority of people are on LinkedIn these days. And again, just ensure that you are aligning your CV to the opportunity that you're applying to. It's not necessarily always about retaining a standard CV that you then just send out across to the various vacancies that that you're interested in applying to. So hopefully that's given you just a brief overview from a recruitment perspective. As I said, more than happy to respond to any questions. More than happy to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. If you'd want to ask questions directly, that's also absolutely fine from my side. So if I can hand back to Angela, please.
Hi there, thank you very much for that. If I could ask our speakers to put their cameras on, please. And we'll just kick off the Q&A. If you do have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, type it in the box. I'll kick off with a few to get us going. So again, thank you very much for that. That was incredible. Really, I was looking forward to this all week, and now I've heard it. I've really enjoyed it. So, right, a couple of quick questions then. So Darren, you mentioned you enjoyed your transition. What did you learn about yourself, and what realizations did you have?
Always a great question. I think what I did, and I ended up having time, and I didn't have time in my transition. I always put my hand up and readily say that I worked too hard till the end. And Caroline will always attest to the fact that I turned up 1 month before I was due to TX and said, "What can you do for me?" Which is not the planning, and that's not what a project manager should do. And that's completely, my sort of go-to how I mucked up my transition year. But what I did then was it gave me the focus to have a look at what I wanted to do, and really, I gave myself a little bit of time. I gave myself a few months where I listened to what was being pushed towards me from Buildforce, but also I kind of sat down and just spent a little bit of thought. And a few things that always come up is geography. Everybody's got geography. Where are you based? How far are you prepared to travel, and what does that travel look like? I didn't envisage that. At the moment I'm in far east of Essex in Shoeburyness. It was a long way from my south coast home, but I kind of have embraced the travel, and it was part. But so I always find that's an important part. The other element is, as I said, it's sort of down selecting. What are you really going to be passionate about? What was your parts of perhaps your career that you enjoyed, but you didn't do much of because the military just moved you on. And I worked in all sorts of areas. I was very lucky that I did some frontline engineering. I then also worked as a career manager, so I did quite a bit of HR orientated people management, and then went into change programs, and then back into engineering. So in all of that, I found, I kind of reflected back into, there was little elements that I knew that I actually enjoyed, and it turned out to be projects, which is why I enjoy what I do now. I enjoy the transitional nature of a project. There's a start, a middle, and hopefully always an end. And the end, it comes with a product of whatever nature it is, and you move on to the next, which is very much something I had in my previous time as well.
Okay.
Does that answer? Or is that,
it does answer. You can hear that passion there. You can hear that passion. And a question for Nikki. Nikki, you said that you've employed many ex-military. So what words of wisdom could you impart to those listening, perhaps a little overwhelmed by the jargon or what looks like complex roles? Why have the ex-military transitioned so well in your team?
Oh, yeah, good question. So in terms of, I've not been overwhelmed with it all. I think sort of going back to Darren and not leaving it to the last minute and doing that bit of research. Read a whole load of job specs if you fancy something. Look at the language that's being used in the job specs and talk to other people that have done that, have made that move, to really understand how you can sell yourself in the language of whichever company or organisation you're kind of applying to. Why was the other bit of the question? Why have they landed so well and done so well?
Yeah.
I think it's a real mixture of things. And I know it sounds really cheesy. It's something I always say at recruitment events and interviews, and people say, why have you been with Atkins for 20 years? And it is the culture. It's really supportive. Everybody wants to help. So regardless actually of what background, it could be from our JCs who have just come in, or some of our apprentices who've just joined and they're 18, and everyone needs a different kind of support, but people genuinely want to help, and there's always someone available to help. So I think that is a key part of it. But also the sort of background I think that military leaders bring. They have been managing projects of work. They have been influencing customers or internal customers, or engaging with other military organizations and other countries and things like that. That's consultancy. They're consulting, they're influencing, they're communicating, and that's what we do. So I think that core skill set and the understanding of our markets. We work in defence and aerospace and government, and I think all of those things together really helps that transition.
That's a really relatable response, Sarah. Thank you for that. A question for David. So really fascinating listening to your progression in your career at Atkins. So the more senior roles that you've held, what skills have you come to rely on, David? And were those skills from your military career?
So similarly, there's this kind of similar vein or the same vein really, to what Nikki was suggesting. So I think it's actually being able to land in a team and self-organize within the team and understand everybody takes responsibility and all starts playing their part. Now in the military, that's instilled into you. All through from basic training all the way through is kind of like, you're in this team and now you're over in this team and you've got this objective and now you're over in this team and you've got this objective. And then and actually changing or having that experience and being able to fit and know how to fit and fitting well means when we have people with a military background, they kind of know when to lead, when not to lead, when to get stuck in or when to stand back and assess. Okay, and that's something that's as I said, is instilled, and I think that all the way through my career, from not very senior to more senior roles, I value that for myself personally. Mm-hmm. I see that in others and have confidence and instill that within teams. And also it helps me to kind of identify who I can put into a team to actually go and operate. Because if I can put a couple of people ex-military into a kind of junior team, all of a sudden it just works. And I think that it's the influence, the experiences that next forces individual brings, and that ingredient, and that's the best thing. And as Nikki said, the consultancy side of things, advising. Know when to advise, know when to listen. Again, that's a very good military trait, and what we do is help to identify that. Sometimes we have to kind of soften some edges and things, in terms of, because in the military, we sort of instruction driven, okay. And we have to soften that, and we go through training. And so I've been the sponsor for core consultancy skills course and advanced consultancy skills course development courses over a period of years, to help people understand, some of those core skills, how to kind of change them, evolve them into, the more softer skills that we need as consultants. But you find that ex-military, ex-forces individuals already have the ingredients. They just need to shape it slightly and just need to be able to be portrayed sometimes in a slightly different way. And we understand that, and we do the training, and we help people to kind of adjust, so they find it easy.
So just on that training piece then, so what immediate skills are needed in terms of training that the candidates could complete during their transition?
So I shall answer this one again.
Yeah.
So core consultancy. So for in the digital space, we well, in all practice areas, Nikki's as well. We put people through the core consultancy skills training, and that helps to develop and encourage, and sometimes bring to the surface some of the skills that you might not recognize as being core. Yeah, and that might be interviewing technique. It might be understanding that the life cycle of something, a project or even a meeting has a start, a middle, and an end, and knowing how to change change through that and evolve through through that, and knowing how to read people and understand when they aren't necessarily taking the message or want to be able to go away and digest that message, and understanding when appropriate and when not appropriate, and teaching the kind of the softer elements of that. We also look at some of the principles and the ethics behind that and again, from the military, you already those ethics and principles of how you operate are instilled into you. They're in the cat badge, and that is, we also see that and put people through chartered management consulting program, which starts with the core consultancy skills course and goes in the advanced consultancy skills course and then on to chartered manager. And that's literally, from our profession, wearing the cat badge and understanding you've kind of achieved. So we help people kind of transition and improve on their skill set over the years, but with a foundation that's already there from the skills that they've grown. In terms of, I'll let Nikki kind of mention some of the training that she does within her team. But for people that could, going into the business analysis team, they might not have all the elements, but we will identify, a solid skill sets and then say, right, we'll put you through the business or the BCS diploma training for a year. So a huge investment, and that's something that Atkins does as an investor. I don't think it's registered as an investor in people, but it definitely is an investor in people. And that was one of the things that attracted me to come into Atkins in the first place, because it allowed me to build those high-performing teams. And so we do that. We also do key training, fundamental training in terms of service management, or whether it be a technology aspect. We can teach people how to put computers together or how to design systems, but it's actually the skills of actually being able to speak to the clients and understand what and have empathy and understanding of how they're operating is more important to us. The technical stuff can be taught and learned. Having that empathy and understanding and that experience is is something you come with. And we can't learn that, although you do pick more up as you go along. And somebody said to me, David, I have a long illustrious career, and then suddenly realised what they meant was I was old, and that's really important that you've all got those experiences. You're building up that illustrious career, and Atkins really does give the opportunity for building that career up even further and further. And an opportunity is massive, and I can't underestimate how massive it is. So even if you come into the organisation and find that that a specific job or a role isn't quite for you, Atkins is big enough to evolve into other roles. So all of us on this call, Darren, Nick, himself, we've all evolved around and found somewhere where we're good at and how we can operate and then maximise our potential. And that's, again, a very forces based principle of how it operates.
Okay, and a couple of questions in terms of Prince to APM, PMQ, or things like that, good for the CV as the candidates are going through yet?
Yeah, from my perspective, it also helps you talk the same language as whoever's going to be interviewing you. So I think even doing a selection, some things are traditional, like Prince, like a waterfall methodology, but also having an understanding of Agile in case those conversations come up. So not necessarily doing all the creds, but having at least an awareness of the different kinds of project management methodologies and like difference between project, program, portfolio, just to help that conversation or help build the CV. Really useful.
Okay, and is your colleague Patricia, are you there just to answer some questions on the CV?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So obviously the CV, the first part of the process to get the candidates going. I think probably what sometimes can happen is everybody will start running to their dictionary and looking for all words associated with technology and digital and transformation. And I mean, what is your advice in that space? Is it just be clear on what skills you have got, what experiences you have got, and you as an employer will pick up the rest? Are you able to, you're skilled in that space to read into the CV and understand the military CVs?
Yes, I think so. But I think there's also, from a candidate perspective, the need for them to ensure that they are reading the job descriptions, that their skills align to that job description, or that they've got transferable experiences that they can bring across. I think there's a perception that people need to have keyword in their CVs because, everyone's using artificial intelligence to pick out keywords and algorithms, and that's what happens. And that's absolutely not the case at Atkins. We have real people such as recruiters and hiring managers who review those CVs, and they will review the CVs in relation to the job description. Does that candidate have transferable skills or experiences that the hiring manager is essentially going to be interested in? So my advice would be, don't get hung up on as you said, Angela, Googling a whole bunch of words that maybe they should include in their CV, because ultimately what will happen is, even if putting those words in the CV got them to an interview, it wouldn't then be a particularly successful interview. So I think it's about ensuring also that when somebody's writing a CV, that front page highlights, their key skills, their transferable skills, transferable experience, their achievements that they've had over the years, which are going to be, many. And that really almost needs to make up that opening paragraph, so that, again, if there's something that's not particularly highlighted from a technical expertise area, it's highlighted in that opening paragraph, and managers are able to recognize that, as are the recruiters. The other thing I do want to say, because we are seeing this more and more, are people seem to be forgetting to putting their contact details on a CV. So I appreciate don't put an address in there, but either a mobile telephone number, either a email address in the actual CV. Appreciate that sometimes people think, I've put in my contact details in the in maybe the application portal, but it's really important to ensure that those details, people remember to put those on their CVs.
And they're correct. We've seen a couple of mobile numbers as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So just another quick question. Do you offer day release and undergraduate programs?
So we offer the early careers elements, and that is through apprenticeship. We have summer placements, we have industrial placements, and then obviously the graduate schemes, and all of those vacancies are advertised currently. Again, if you literally just do a search for Atkins or F&G early careers, everything is on there. There's a separate page for the early careers side, which obviously explains the timelines, what's expected. For the early career side, we do ask people to fill in an application form rather than a CV, so that, again, everybody's got an opportunity to highlight their relevant experiences.
Okay, and just on recurring themes that we're seeing a lot at the moment, we've got candidates asking about working from home and flexibility. So what does that look like in Atkins at the moment?
Yeah, and I think, Darren absolutely alluded to it earlier, as did Nikki. So from an Atkins perspective, obviously we all moved to working from home March of last year. And we've literally got a hybrid working model at the moment, where there's a request for people to go into an office probably 2 days of the week. The rest of the time they work from home. We do have some instances where, because of client requirements, people do need to be on client site. So I think, that's always an area to take into consideration. But as a flexible employer, I think Atkins has been ahead of the curve for a really, really long time. We've always offered flexible working, even pre-pandemic. And I think people are left to just ensure that they have a working pattern that works for them and obviously for their managers and their client. And we do very much support our reservists with they are also given an additional, I think it's 10 days leave over and above, what everybody else has, in order to support some of their responsibilities, training, etc., that they need to go through.
Right. Okay. No, thank you for that. Darren, can I ask what you most love about your role? Every time I see you, you're smiling. So they're obviously doing something right over at Atkins.
Yes, indeed. So, Angela, can I just pick up on one thing that from that little segment? One of the things that I've noticed with doing a little bit more of hiring into teams is one thing that F&G and Atkins are always looking for is everybody's using the word of diversity. But what we're actually looking for is a diversity of characters within our teams. We don't want, a team of, 8 people that are all exactly the same. That's actually not very good for us, and it's not good for our clients. And the reason I was picking that up on the back of Patricia's comments was, if somebody's looking at their CV and they're looking at the job spec and they think, actually, I can do a really good job there, and I'm going to bring something new to your team, somehow they've got to get that in their CV. Now, I believe that's through their experiences, not through I've got this qualification, because it doesn't come across in that. But if, for me, if I'm looking at a CV that's sent through to me, I'm actually intrigued as to what that person's going to bring into the team, and we want that diversity. So I would like to say to everybody, don't be put off because you can't make a direct correlation from that word to that word. If you believe that you can bring something to that team, put your CV forward, because somebody on the other side will quite likely pick up on the same thing you're offering.
And just on the diversity point, Darren, actually, can I just note that it's kind of girl power today? I think we're in a kind of 3-2 ratio with women at Atkins. So well done, you.
That's that's a world I live in quite a lot. So
good.
Like I say, so there's one of the things I love about my job is I've moved from a world that was orientated around certain factors in the military, and I'm now in a very diverse company and group of companies that has we've mentioned it a lot about different projects, different skills. So the other thing that I really enjoy is within my office in Southampton, just within our project management team, we're all doing something different. So when I get on a call like this, and I'm still somebody that likes to go to site and do the face-to-face, I'm actually talking about all sorts of things that are way outside of my normal everyday, which is great for me. So that keeps my interest. And David very eloquently put it that once you're in the company, sort of leaving is if you want to leave, that's great. But actually, there's so many other things to go and do. Why would you want to leave? So for me, I'm constantly challenged, thinking of where's the next project, what's that going to be, and I'm being developed by my seniors. So
and just in terms, and you mentioned there you're down in Southampton, so you're properly down south then. So are the projects nationwide? Are you covering every part of the UK?
Yes, yeah, 100%. In fact, from Southampton office, we work in the West region, which actually is a group of Southampton, Exeter, Cardiff, Bristol. Effectively in the south, everything outside of London and the southeast is covered by the West region. So we could be working with our colleagues in Bristol on a project in that area, and certainly for me, because I'm working with an MOD client, I'm currently in Essex on an MOD site. I am very much living a life where, even as a project manager, you might be in a project for a long time. Every day is still different. Which is very much an industry tagline. But it's something, like I said, I found the symmetry from my naval career, because every time you turned up at work on a ship, it was a different day. and this is still the same. It's an industry that has that symmetry across it.
So much richness. Yeah, it really is the best industry in the world. So thank you for that, Darren. But I would like to thank Atkins, Laura, Darren, Nikki, David, and Patricia. Advise register with the Atkins talent community. They are incredibly military friendly, one of the best, if not the best, in industry. So you have got all that help and support there. The vacancies are there. They're eager to speak with you, so either go back to Caroline or register direct on their websites. But I will pass over to Caroline just to close.
Yes, thank you. I wonder if you can see me, but I've got real sun haze here, so I think I'm glowing, but maybe not. That's just my vision in my head. So thank you for today. That was fantastic. I was really looking forward to the Atkins and learning more about the digital space. As I said, it's a real growth area and one that we're looking to support more military personnel into. So thank you all for joining us and getting that sector across. So just a couple of things. You may have heard last week that I don't know why, my own insanity, but I am running the Bath Half Marathon on the 13th of March. To raise awareness in mental health and suicide. So really would love some more runners to join me. So Darren, get your runners out. There's an event to join me. But no, seriously, really would love more to join me. And so we can really raise awareness in such an important part of everyone's lives. And the next virtual career chat we've got is in 2 weeks' time. We will be discussing site management with alliance partners Wilmot Dixon and Morgan Sindall. So looking forward to that too. So have a lovely day all. I hope you all have a different day like Darren does every day. Every day is a Friday for Darren by the sounds of it. And thank you very much for listening and to my speakers for talking. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.